Senator Rand Paul, presidential candidate, with me live back on the Hill, sir, and good morning and welcome back here. I was watching your tweets in real time last night. You had a lot to say, including this. This speech was an attempt to turn a necessary discussion on terrorism and national security into an ineffective gun control debate. Go. Explain.
Well, it's sort of a bait and switch thing. We've decided that we're going to talk about gun control. In reality, we need to be talking about border security. We need to be talking about terrorists and how they get to our country. That's why I've been advocating for a couple of years now that we need more scrutiny. And in fact, I think we need to stop. I think we need to have a moratorium on new immigration from the Middle East till we get a grip on who's here and whether or not they've come to attack us. Obviously, the woman involved, the female involved with this terrorism, should have never been in our country. It also appears as if she was dishonest on her papers to get here, and even the president in his speech admitted as much, that we didn't have enough scrutiny on her coming here. So I think we need to revamp our entire system, and until we're certain that we're not admitting people who would attack us, I think we need to just press pause. Let's have a moratorium for a while.
And you know, there's a movement in the House tomorrow that we'll talk about a little bit later when it comes to the visa program. Repeatedly, the president says there's no war against Islam. Who says there is one?
Well, I don't think anybody does. In fact, I've been saying over and over again that the ultimate answer, the long-term peace or long-term victory, will be when civilized mainstream Islam rises up and stamps this out. Because the problem is if Europeans or Americans are seen as the ones defeating ISIS, then what happens is they say, oh, well, these are the Crusaders again, and they spring back up another generation. But I think if Islam says this is not part of Islam, that's ultimately then when we'll get to the victory.
So why is that not happening? I mean, you hear a little bit of it. I mean, NBC on Sunday morning had a little bit of that on their broadcast on Sunday morning. But why is it not happening? And what is the suggestion? Does it tell you that there are more sympathizers in this world that we care to be honest about?
I think right now what has happened is that the battle between Sunni and Shiite has dominated over the battle between mainstream and aberrant Islam. So what you have is you have Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Sunni nations pouring millions of tons of weapons on the side of ISIS because they don't like Assad because he's a Shiite. Same way in Iraq. They're not really that sympathetic towards the Baghdad government because they're Shiite. So the Turks actually have really not stepped up to the game against ISIS because they're like, well, we also hate the Kurds and we also hate the Shiites. And so really it's caught up in these long-standing wars. But the ultimate answer is when Sunni Islam rises up and says, ISIS does not represent us, that's when we're going to have a victory.
We're still waiting on that. You say regime change doesn't work. Look at Iraq, look at Libya. I understand the point you're making on that, but the president last night said we don't want to put 100,000 of our young men and women for a decade in another Middle Eastern war. But sir, I don't know who is advocating 100,000 men and women in the Middle East again. Name one.
Well, I think the question is the people who do advocate for American boots on the ground, can you do it with 50? I mean, I think it's absurd.
I haven't heard 50. Lindsey Graham is the only one who has put a number on the table at 20,000.
No, but the president has introduced 50 people. Now he's talking about 200 people. What I'm saying is that you don't go to war with underwhelming force, but then if you're not going with underwhelming force, then we do need to have a debate over whether or not overwhelming force is the answer. I think with overwhelming force, yes, within 6 months, but it would probably require, you wouldn't go halfway. It might require 100,000, 200,000. The problem is it'll be a temporary victory. We will wipe out ISIS, but then another generation festers and comes forward. That's why what I'm saying is that the ultimate victory on the ground, the long-lasting victory and peace, has to come from Sunni Muslims. We can be of assistance, but ultimately the boots on the ground, I think, have to be Arab boots on the ground.